All right, so forget what you think you know about classical music. Seriously. Today, we're exploring a composer who was basically a world builder, creating entire universes, not with code or special effects, but with pure sound. His name is Gustav Mahler, and this is his sonic adventure.
I mean, really think about it for a second. If you had to make a soundtrack for everything, every single emotion, every landscape, every epic moment in life, where would you even begin? That is a huge question, right?
Well, that brings us to our guy, Gustav Mahler. He wasn't just writing nice tunes, he was trying to build worlds. He truly believed a symphony shouldn't just be some pleasant background music. Nope, he thought it should be just like the world itself, absolutely massive, complicated, beautiful, and sometimes even a little bit scary.
So how did Mahler even get the skills to build these incredible sonic worlds? Well, he had to level up, big time. He actually started his career not as a famous composer, but as a conductor, and he basically had to grind his way to the very top.
You can pretty much see his whole career path laid out right here. He started off in these small-town theaters. You can think of those as the tutorial levels, learning the ropes. Then he leveled up to bigger cities, bigger stages, like Prague and Budapest. His final boss moment in Europe was becoming the director of the super prestigious Vienna State Opera. But he wasn't done. He then took on New Game Plus and moved to America to lead the top orchestras in New York.
So how did he climb that ladder so fast? Well, Mahler was definitely not a chill boss. This slide kind of shows the two extremes, and he was 100% on the right. Think of the most intense coach for a pro gaming team. That was Mahler. He demanded absolute perfection in everything, from the music notes to the stage lighting. This got him a ton of respect for sure, but it also meant he clashed with anyone who wasn't ready to meet his incredibly high standards.
But here's the thing. All that intense conducting, that was just his day job. His true mission, his whole life's work, was composing. And he would spend his summer vacations escaping to these tiny little huts in the mountains to build his massive, world-encompassing symphonies.
So, to build his worlds, Mahler needed a huge palette of sounds. He was a master of what we call orchestral colors. And think of it this way. It's kind of like how a YouTuber uses different filters or sound effects or editing styles to create a specific mood for a video. Mahler did the same thing, but with instruments. He would combine them in totally new ways to create sounds that nobody had ever heard before.
And this list really gives you a sense of his philosophy. A symphony should contain everything. So what did he use? Cowbells, to make you feel like you're in the Alps. Folk songs he heard at a village dance, military marches from his childhood. He even put in bird calls and had musicians play from off stage for a wild surround sound effect. And yep, you are seeing that right. A giant wooden hammer.
Speaking of which, we have to talk about that hammer. In his Sixth Symphony, which is often called the Tragic, he needed to create a sound that was just devastating, something that felt totally and completely final.
I mean, think about it. How would you do it? How do you write music that sounds like a hero's journey coming to a sudden, brutal end? What instrument do you pick to signal that it is game over?
You guessed it, a giant hammer. He wrote 3 massive hammer blows right into the music. They were meant to represent these cruel strokes of fate, sudden, shocking, and final. It's pretty much the musical equivalent of a dramatic, unskippable cutscene where the hero loses. It is so incredibly intense and just shows how far he would go to tell a story with sound. Now, as big as his ideas were, nothing could have prepared the world for his Eighth Symphony. I mean, if his other symphonies were like building entire worlds, this one was a whole galaxy. Just let that number sink in for a moment. Over 1,000 performers on a single stage. That is exactly why it got its nickname, the Symphony of 1,000. This pretty much breaks down how he pulled it off. Can you imagine trying to organize a massive raid in an online game, but with 1,000 real people on one stage, all needing to work together perfectly? That's basically what this was. He combined multiple choirs with a gigantic orchestra to perform this piece, all about universal love and human creativity. And unlike a lot of his other work, this one was an instant hit, one of the biggest live events of its time. So why does a composer from over a century ago still matter today? Well, because his music wasn't just about building these epic worlds, it was also deeply personal. He poured his own life into his symphonies, and that includes his struggles with a serious heart condition and the heartbreaking loss of his young daughter. All of that pain and love and deep thought is right there in the music.
During his lifetime, a lot of people just didn't get his music. They thought it was too long, too loud, just too complicated. But Mahler, he knew what he was doing. He famously said, "My time will come." He was basically predicting that future generations, people like us, would eventually get what he was trying to do. And you know what? He was totally right. Today, Mahler is seen as this major innovator, a bridge that connects the old classical world to the more modern, experimental sounds of the 20th century. Now, his symphonies are performed by every single major orchestra in the world. His time definitely came.
So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that Mahler showed us that music can be just as big and as complex as life itself. Which brings us all the way back to our first question, but this time it's for you. If you were building a symphony for your world, your life, your feelings, your dreams, what would it sound like? What story would you tell?